Hello. Currently, just going to be looking at some global maps, local weather to different countries, and more or less just looking at the current state of the ocean. Usually start with zooming, zoomer, since it does such an excellent job of stitching together a 10-minute interval satellite images without having to go to 17 different websites just to get to those. This Zoom Earth still blows my mind to this day. Absolutely unreal amount of accessible real satellite imagery is updated every 10 minutes, and you can zoom in, you can click, the bottom tells you where the source is. You don't have to go to some weatherchaser.com weird website for Australia's real-time weather data and satellite. It's satellite imagery, 10-minute intervals, radar is 5. Don't have any point behind. Oh, so Tropical Storm Ophelia, as the previous videos I've made, is going to make a bit of a stall out over Richmond. And that's when it's going to start turning into a tropical depression. I'm going to go over New Jersey, all the way to Delaware. You see they updated the cone now to more than suggest it's parallel to Manhattan. We'll have most of the rain was gone. That was the first 24 hours, North Carolina coast. But it's still carrying a lot of precipitation. Don't see too much for flooding though. These look like some mean storms in the Central Plains, Iowa especially. Go back 3 hours. It's just settling along. Probably a lot of lightning in there. Probably should check. This is the lightning map, real-time lightning map. As we, whoa, whoa, there is some lightning in those storms. Iowa, Kansas City getting hit hard as well. Lightning might not be visible to the ground as well, so it's maybe Iowa's getting the storm with the lightning that's actually coming towards the ground, and Kansas City is getting the lightning that's just going everywhere else. Oh, look into it. That is quite a ferocious storm. That did not sneak up on people. Let's take a look over down here at the current wildfires in Northern California, Southwest Oregon. Still burning, still terrible, but the wind is heading northeast. So I don't know how people in Medford and all this deal with the smoke. You're right there on the point of origin. The fires are right here, all right here. Terrible. That's not. Fire and smoke map will tell us. Yep. That's pretty terrible, actually. That's some of the worst I've seen yet. In this area, especially, not in general. That's going to be coming back down to the Bay Area as this starts to form columns of smoke. The wind is going to want to blow it down and fight it. It's going to go south, it's going to go back to the Bay Area, or travel further northeast. This is it kind of looks like the entire state of Oregon is on fire. That should be breaking news. But it's only half. Air quality remains terrible for most of California. Thanks to these wildfires that have been burning for months. Oregon and Northern California. As north down as Redding. Also, numerous wildfires in Louisiana burn. And Mississippi. Couldn't it be from some petroleum leak or spill? Nope. A little fire in Fairbanks. No, what? Yeah, all of Canada. All the smoke. It's all smoke here. This giant mass here. This is all smoke. Darker, thicker the smoke. But this is Quebec, and it's coming off the coast again. Eventually the wind's going to correct its course back to Greenland, where the smoke was going to damage further glacial ice, causing further glacial ice will retreat, and glacial lake outbursting, which is when all that water in the core of a glacier or a huge piece of ice worms its way out and fills. That is a lot of. Sorry for people in the Northeast and Pacific Northwest, as that probably hasn't ended at all for the entire year. Smoke heading down, following the storm. Quite a bit of lightning there in Iowa. Minnesota. I'm sure the lightning's fun. Where else is having lightning? Colombia? Italy? Quite a bit of lightning in the Bay Area. This heats up the water even further in the Bay Areas. No lightning in the Ukraine. Flashing. Lightning off the coast of Japan, the east coast of Japan, and some lightning looking some lightning in British Columbia. They do not need lightning in British Columbia. They've had enough. And this is the remnants of her tropical cyclone Ophelia. This lightning has been impressively staying off land and just off to the coast, and surviving just by this. But this is such a big storm. Catches you off guard when it's in North Carolina and it's raining in Newark. These fires are pretty severe, the smoke is pretty thick, and this is looking more like northwestern territories of Canada. Thick blankets of smoke and non-stop fires. Fires spread. Fires burn deep because the roots grown deep. There's organic material to burn as far deep as the fire can go. These fires burning tens of thousands of acres. And that's the kind of ecology damage that it's doing to its neighbors. Well, how about when we go up to Canada and we see wildfires, millions of acres burned, millions of acres lost. Just look at that. That is fire happening right now. This is a 3-hour time-lapse interval from real time to 3-hour local fire time. These are all plumes from a new fire. Each one of these is a new fire start. or potentially just fire perimeter growing. This is Fort Smith. Fort Smith was not a little city. It is a heavy heart to see these kind of events play out from the last few months and know that these events, as in Fort Smith, Yellowknife, people were evacuated by the thousands. It was the largest civilian evacuation. Let me pull that up. Probably didn't need to show all that typing, but yep. Military, this was from the 16th of August. Military airlifts hundreds to safety from fires in the Northwest Territories. He is one of more than 6,500 people who have been ordered to evacuate in parts of the Northwest Territories. They mentioned Hay River as well, and Hay River was evacuated as 5,000 people, but Hay River looks absolutely destroyed. I don't think anything is left of Hay River. But Fort Smith, until last week, I don't know if it's still there or not, is just obscured by smoke and fire, but it doesn't mean structures are damaged. Same as in Yellowknife, important city, capital over here, still threatened by fire and smoke all around. People did stay behind for emergency personnel, but I really hope everybody's okay. These first responders, these people that stayed back because people still need to be evacuated, still need transportation, medical, anything. But too late. It's too late to evacuate. These roads are all gone, are swallowed up by the fires, and there's only one road out this area. This is Saskatchewan is burning now. Thick, terrible fires. Adding more smoke that rises up that eventually will fall into the waters, poisoning lakes. You can see this smoke build up into a squall line. More fires. Northwest Territories. Fires don't end, and there's not the personnel to be able to put them out. There isn't a modern way of fighting fires on this scale. Canada is massive. Really, really massive. And when 5% has burned, that's huge. Say 1,000 wildfires currently active. There are many and numerous all over the place. They're in hard to reach places that are inhospitable to traveling by foot with 80 pounds of equipment. Smoke jumpers get parachuted out in the woods. Really heroic and insane stories. But there is nothing anybody could have done to save Fort Smith. Everyone was evacuated earlier in the year in August. Between this and Hay River, I don't know if these numbers were overlapping each other since the distance between Hay River and Fort Smith are so close, relatively. 6,500 people evacuated from Fort Smith, 5,000 people evacuated from Hay River, and thousands more evacuated from Yellowknife. Thousands of people that the military helped evacuate from what would be too late to evacuate. The one road leading in and out is burned, destroyed. All the land around the road is destroyed and burned. You lose orientation pretty quickly due to the amount of smoke surrounding you. Your car, if you were to stop your car for any reason, wildfire smoke gets sucked into the engine, not starting again. So people, they don't stop their engines while they're evacuating from these areas as well. They're told to keep their engines running. If you stop that engine once, it probably won't start back up again. It's terrible. See a lot of these stalled out cars along the highway. You wonder how that happened. It's because the wildfire smoke is too thick. Say the car stalls out for any reason, and it doesn't start back up. Or it won't turn over again. These fires in Saskatchewan are really terrible. They just keep growing. Keep growing east again. More fires burning. Manitoba looks like it's seeing some fires now as well, as this northeasterly air pressure is pulling all this smoke up like a blanket as it turns. This smoke is too defined to be pulled straight. Is horrifying. These fires are great and numerous. I've not seen much in Quebec besides the smoke that comes over from Saskatchewan. Come back down, Pacific Northwest, Pacific coastline of California. Massive fires burn here, massive fires burn here. But if one of these fires were to have been nearly the size, such as SS67, over 1 million acres burned, FS1, for 1.3 million acres burned, almost a million there. Some really large fires that it's absolutely insane. 500,000. SS22, 1 million. This is what's near north of Fort Smith. A lot of these are all in the 6 digits. Here is the Donnie Creek fire, which I know to be one of the largest fires burning in British Columbia. Probably throughout Canada as well. I don't think any, unless a fire has merged with another fire, I don't think one is as big as the Donnie Creek fire has been. It's almost 1.5 million acres burned. And that's not just land, that's wildlife burned. These fires move fast. Unless it flies and it can fly away from the smoke, it's not getting away. All the trees, all that waste, all that carbon and rot. Nobody benefits from wildfires. People benefit from small controlled burnings for a variety of reasons, like for survival, warmth, food, and shelter, because many other animals won't come near it. It looks, especially predators, the way they see thermal imaging, they see blood, they see the heat of blood, see the heat in general of light. So fire scares the living hell out of a lion. It's just like you're going blind but in the opposite direction. Everything is just painfully white, but not like you're just seeing a bright light. You're hurt by the intensity of the heat of the light. Bears, so many other animals won't run very far from these fires initially, because where are they going to go? Elephants migrating over northern Africa have nowhere to go. They're running out of water. They're going to start shaking down human beings for their supplies. Elephants have a secret though. Elephants can find water no matter what. They will find the pipes, they will find reservoirs, they will find dams, and they will pull them apart and get to that water. Elephants are crafty and brilliant. Nobody's ever been able to educate, like, tell an elephant no. Stop pulling that water pipe out of the ground. I digress. These hundreds of wildfires throughout Canada, especially the whole west side of Canada, right to where you get to Alaska. Most of these fires, hundreds of thousands of acres, add them up to be over 4 million acres just off the few that we mentioned. Over 5 million acres, actually, had that one. The Smith Fire, 1.3 million acres. So it's well over 5 million acres now burned. And you can still see that the fires are not decreasing in intensity. There's not going to be, this is fire season now. Fire season is all year round. To think even total fire ban would help at this point, when it's mainly First Nation land that's burning. Does tribal territory have their own fire brigade, their own firefighters? Is there anybody that gives a damn about land burning on tribal land, fire burning on tribal land? Is that what we're just seeing now in Canada? That most of the area's not owned, so it's gonna be burned? It's gonna burn, it's gonna burn, nobody's gonna put it out. It's not our jurisdiction. What's happening in Montana right now, northern Montana. Listen to just how callous people can be, especially when it's tribal land. Kelly's spell, these fires burning over here. Yeah, I bet they're contained now, but for some reason they were able to burn out of tribal land right next to the town. They seemed pretty confident they had it. All I can think about whenever I look at land burning in tribal territory. As if Hulk Hogan couldn't be a bigger piece of shit. He marries a Scientologist, making him out to be a Scientologist. Marshall Island. Terrible fires burning throughout Africa as well. So much fire. I'm pretty sure every continent on Earth right now has wildfires. Some kind of massive fire that's burning. Let's take a look at the current state of the oceans. Ocean currents. The UTC. Florida still looking rough. This band is really tightening up on the Miami side of Florida. And we got wild spaghetti again in the northern North Atlantic. Not able to make it much further. It's going to keep trying, but it's going to keep sending bigger currents to try to make this happen. Now with the Gulf of Mexico being literally just one temperature as close as 90 degrees as possible, same as the Gulf of California, you want to swing a big current that's going to move a lot of water, that's going to be able to penetrate as far north as this system needs to continue this process. Same thing happens on the Pacific side, except it's Japan and Taiwan instead of Florida. You can see that this is sea surface temperature anomaly. Look at the Gulf of Mexico. The only difference in temperature that you can see is quite literally the same outline. What's this? Of its actual tidal currents within the Gulf of Mexico itself. This is dangerous. This is a lot of spring potential, a lot of energy that's built up because it's going to want to try this again. It may look like it's always in process, but this is not connected. Like this is connected. Like this is connected. It breaks apart and it goes in other places. It needs this train behind it. But it hasn't gone anywhere in 3-4 years. It's fine to blame Florida. They've dumped enough terrible chemicals in the last few years that really did a lot with this. They completely destroyed all of their mangroves, all of their ocean vegetation that everything literally feeds on, like manatees. They're all going to die. They're all going to get sucked out of this tidal, this massive pool of this current that's going to be probably pulling Florida along with it as this temperature increases. It's going to wind up and wind up and wind up. The only difference of texture in any of the Gulf of Mexico is currents. It's not a temperature difference. It's going to cycle. The Gulf of California is also becoming increasingly close to 90 degrees as possible. These kinds of temperature differences in the Bay areas like this, especially like in the Persian Gulf here, that's over 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 33 degrees Celsius. Suez Canal as well, seeing record temperatures and drought. Now that the Suez Canal is restricted for a year, but still there's not going to be any change. The only change is that the temperature in the sea won't allow people to sail anymore. People in a vessel that doesn't have air conditioning won't be able to sail for very long when the water is almost over 90 degrees. So the operations of the boat is going to be a tomb. A lot of these big freighters and storage units, they get extremely hot without the water being boiling. Here, for this northern temperature difference cut through Gonna want to continue going through as far north, but no. It's gonna be one after another hurricane, one after another tropical storm. Start this. The last one started here. The next one probably start in the Gulf. See if any started since talking. Nope, nothing yet. I can see this ridiculous hurricane forming in the Gulf of Mexico due to all these conditions. It's all one temperature. It's all one temperature. It's all one temperature. It's all one temperature. This is dangerous to see. This is millions of people of their lives, not just losing livelihood from fishing, but not being able to be on the water. You can't be on the water. Your motor is going to explode. Hot water does things to a lot of things besides cook shellfish and their shells, mussels. It forces migration of animals that probably don't have a migration path. Where are they going to go? We only pay attention to what's above the surface because this was easier to see with satellite, until we can plainly see that seagrass is usually gone in areas like in the Galapagos area, where marine iguanas only feed on the deep sea grass that grows off the island. Any animals that live in the marine here are not used to temperatures being over 90 degrees, because most animals, this kills them. It drives away oxygen, it drives away moisture. There's less oxygen that fish would get from running the water through their gills than before. Now we come up to Mozambique Channel. Well, water heats up here, so there is an active submarine volcano in this area. That's I digress. These are just temperatures of water just along Indian Ocean. You have all the other gulfs over here, Gulf of Tonkin, Gulf of Thailand, I believe it is. It's all one temperature, and it doesn't go down during the night. There's none of that. This is permanent. Not going to be winter and oh good, the ocean water is no, it's just going to be the other side of the planet heating up just the same as this northern side heated up. So half the world, oceans heating up. The only place for all the sea critters to go is as far south as they can and compete in what would be a true nightmare to see. One thing I will say about the line of Antarctica is that the cold frozen water seems to have escaped the line itself, and now it's just becoming water as it races out. As the continent technically flattens, as it's losing so much surface of itself. That is, in previous videos that I've done, has shown just the amount of ice loss that is just skimming off the surface as warmer water hitting sea at high speed, sending icebergs hurtling precariously around. You should see these things. That's fresh water, that temperature. It's going to thin itself out, so it's stretching out further. The skin of Antarctica, it breathes, but being stretched so far out, there is less chances of greater quantities of sea ice freezing. Animals that require sea ice to live, survive. 90% of emperor chicks last year failed. These are not easy numbers to think about, truly. As we can see, penguins, especially birds, they nurture, they raise their young. They are living beings. And this would be an area of penguins. Hopefully things are still okay. Considering the chunk of sea ice that was as large as Argentina that broke off is what the emperor penguins were all on, just broke underneath them. Back to currents, tidal currents, see what some action is around Florida. Florida's going to meet its day soon, don't worry. Up here is probably volcanism, as these volcanoes in Russia, real islands, these are probably volcanic. I say that because volcanoes in the area, and they are quite energetic. Let's take a look at the last three. Riveting. Now, looking at volcanoes, there is one I know because I got an email alert earlier that the Shishaldin volcano is experiencing far more activity than it has before. There is a camera of the Shishaldin volcano. Video lasts 12 hours. Oh. I gotta go to a new page. I tabbed an older page. See if we can. Anything is in view of Shishaldin. Now it's dark. What was that? Cloud drawback is pretty impressive. Still a little bit of light left here. Great Sitkin. Great Sitkin, Shishaldin, Cleveland, Redoubt. All these volcanoes are active. Semi so Pochnoi. See how it is today. Interesting. So it's fascinating when you actually see the volcanoes. Usually such cloud coverage and such vapor, moisture in the air. All these volcanoes heating up, it's gotta create, oh, wow. We can go to the recorders. Great Sitkin. Actually, no, I'll go to Sheldon. Okay. Looks steady. Stronger. Seismic activity. Noted. Current. Let's do 24 hours. 48 hours. Probably still that same eruption from before. It's building again. But current. Definitely building towards another eruption, as it's currently been explosively erupting. Semi-proportionally. 48 hours. Little activity. Little Sitkin. Pavlov. Doesn't have to be earthquake seismic activity, it could also be lightning. Always great. Always check to see if lightning, that's why I have this open as well. Sometimes you never know if that little piddly earthquake tremor form is just a really strong storm. No lightning around you. Although there is lightning up here. This lightning that's detected here is very close to where the fires are burning right now in Saskatchewan. Although we have our own lightning in here, that's looking like these two storms are gonna meet. These one of the 3 storms, 4 storms, 5 storms. Yeah. This gotta be a massive looking storm in Kansas. As well as Minnesota and Iowa. This whole line of storms is impressive. Lightning still holding as the tail of tropical cyclone Ophelia. That lightning is the only thing keeping it alive. A lot of lightning here in Florida. There's a lot of friction, a lot of activity happening, building up here. Florida's gonna have a very bad time with tidal currents. Oh yeah, back to work. Yep. Looking at this tremendous amount of flooding coming off Brazil. This massive mouths of rivers dumping huge amounts of water off land. Heavy bleaching alerts now surround the planet. Here, level 2. There is no level 3. Coral reef watch. Coral bleaching, coral dying, coral death. Also, the water temperature is getting too warm to be able to comfortably reduce the temperatures around us. So, everything we see here in the northern hemisphere is going to be mirrored in the southern hemisphere in the next cycle, next axis tilt. So, don't know if the oceans will cool off, if the coral will be restored, if it can even be restored. But if the southern hemisphere is hit just as bad as the northern hemisphere, it's hundreds of billions of animal lives that are lost. Animals that live more than a century, 500 years. We make mussels only just a few years. Clams, we farm them, but they have been noted to be, they live hundreds of years in the wild. No zoo containment. Is it possible to keep a species going? It has to be in the wild. No zoo can do this. if you raise two animals by themselves without the wild or interaction or the lessons they are taught by their parents or guardians, they lose out on what makes it them. Can't release them back in the wild, they wouldn't survive. Every zoo has failed. Now the oceans are failing, have failed. You can see here, this is the tidal current I'm talking about. Gets to right about here, fizzles out, and Florida is bracing itself. Some kind of event that I don't think we have an exact term to describe. If you were to ask me, given on the amount of tidal currents pooling and just how rough it is, Florida. Say like this. Yeah. I don't want it to happen. No. What is what they're doing? Below that line. Everything below that line crumples into the ocean. I don't know what happened above that line, but definitely below it, it's either going to come out here, gonna swing around and go up here, but it's the whole point of the Suez Canal is it skip all Africa. You know, people in Florida probably did not like that. The other alternative is water flowing from here to the sea. Wrong screen. Like that. Just keeps getting thinner as it erodes more. And this is similar to what's happening in Florida. Yeah, more like this, yeah. Good luck, Florida. I'm sure you won't have any regrets as you crumple into the ocean. Sad. But you literally killed your environment. That makes Florida even possible to stand. A lot of water runoff here, powerful streams coming off India. And it's a lot of ocean depth. Back to the same terrible amount of coral bleaching and ocean acidification. Because pH value of the ocean starts changing, it becomes harmful to all forms of life as we know it. Water that you can't drink because it's salty, because it will kill you. This is already out of control. Even in the bays of Canada, are we seeing great oxygen depletions, ocean acidification, half the planet. The surface temperature, everything is boiled. Why do they have to wait until can't breathe? It's half the earth there with creatures that have evolved beside us, next to us, or swimming under us. It is painful to see. We might be looking at megafauna extinction, elephants, whales, in the ocean, fauna, megafauna. Seen hundreds of whales wash up dead. Just when whales beach themselves, they're not trying to relax, they're already dying. It's a very low, like less than 2% of whales, either right whale, pilot whales, anything, that is beached of them surviving by being pushed off. Just for whatever reason, could be disease, sickness, could be a lack of food. Whale just can't go any further. Water is rising. Not gonna happen very quickly, but the ocean is rising. Still has a long way to mix, but the water is there. Volcano Trident. That's a lot of activity. Interesting. All stations report good seismic activity. That out. Not easy to look at Antarctica. It doesn't have the same constant, always updated satellite imagery. Probably needs. Polar zones are difficult.